Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Lives on Tuesdays with Elena. Today we have Nattalia Walkker with us today, and we are going to dive into some of the intricacies of birth trauma, how that impacts us as adults, how we can process it as adults, and how we can prevent it in the first place. So Nattalia is a doula, both pre and postpartum, meaning that she works with pregnant couples to support them in preparing for their birth, as well as with mothers and families after the birth of their children, in order to help them learn to become better mothers, process whatever might need to be processed around their birth experience, and move into that new phase of their life. And in addition to that, she's got a really wonderful tool set around breath work, body work, and energy understandings in order to help facilitate those pieces. I've had the pleasure of doing a breath work session with Nattalia that brought me back to the moment of my birth and my conception, with tears in my eyes and goosebumps all over my flesh, and just like feeling so beautiful in that. So it's a real pleasure to have you here today. I'm really excited to dive into limbic imprinting, which is so fascinating, and to hear more about that wisdom.
Well, thank you for doing this, and thank you for inviting me to participate.
You're welcome.
I've been a birth doula for about 8 years, and became really fascinated over time through working with families about how we store memory in our bodies, and how those really intense experiences that we have, like birth, tend to create really deep memories. So neurologically, those memories get recorded, and within our body, they get recorded. Because there's like tons of research out nowadays, like peri and prenatal psychology, and it's been happening since the 70s. There's David Chamberlain, Thomas Verney, Otto Rank, which was a philosopher from like way back, talking about the intensity of birth and memory, and how that gets locked into our body. So in my research, became really fascinated and passionate about how do we support less trauma, because I think it's Michel Ondon, and he's a French obstetrician, and all these great thinkers are passing away. But one of the things that Michel was talking about is how the way we're imprinted at birth determines who we become. So if our template is like love, then inevitably what happens is we're more loving in the world around us, because we actually know what that feels like. So on a neurological and physiological hormonal level, we have a vibration within our body that says this is what it feels like to be loved. So you resonate with every other experience in the world of what that feels like, including the vibration of nature, which is like, look at me bloom, I'm love, right? So when you can match that, you have that resonance, you're like, why would you cut that tree down? Right. Why would you pollute your water? Because to you, it's you. Yeah. It doesn't have any difference. Yeah. And that imprint gets deeply imprinted at the moment of birth, because when a woman births vaginally, there's stretch receptors in her vulva vaginal area, birth path, when baby's coming down, that pump out a massive dose of oxytocin. And oxytocin is like the love hormone, the connection hormone. And we get that quantity only at birth in an amount that we never can have again.
Wow. Other than outside of birth.
Now, there are certain practices and techniques that can help you replenish that. And definitely what I always say is like, love is the great cure-all. So just because you've had trauma from your birth or otherwise doesn't mean you can't rewire yourself. There's also tons of research on the plasticity of the brain, and like working with the stored trauma in our body and how we can unravel all that. But just nature's template is to give us a blast of what this ecstatic experience is.
This is your baseline. This is what life can be.
Yeah. So then you end up living in a way that you want more of those experiences. Right? Like you're always in tune with that type of experience.
Yeah, and what's so that's sort of the positive side. That's what we're hoping is happening. And what's actually happening for a lot of people in birth? Like, what is? I feel like that's not. I feel like that's an ideal, and that's sort of what we were primed for, but it's not necessarily what's happening in current medicalized births.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, there's a difference between ideal and what's happening, and none of what I'm sharing with you has any implications about blame or. I think there's like way too much mother guilt and mother shaming, and that's not the intention at all. It's that we only know what we know.
Yeah.
And if you're only introduced to information that tells you one thing, like you have to birth in a hospital, say if that's the only information that you hear, that's all you think is available to you.
Right. Yeah.
But so this, I just want to like set that as
like a precedent.
Yeah, a precedent is it's not about that. But and definitely now where we're at in medically how we work with women is way better than it used to be. There's still areas, there's always going to be areas for growth, right? So this isn't about like this is bad and this is wrong or blame or anything like that. We're all doing, I think, the best that we can.
Yeah, including the systems.
Including the systems.
Change maybe slower than people, but faster than other people.
Yeah. And there's that lag of change, and we all know how hard actual transformation is. Mm-hmm. Because there's the darkness that you have to face, which I think you're talking about soon. So that's great. But to get back to your question, often one of the major things that a lot of these great thinkers have been talking about for a long time is the consciousness of baby in the womb. So there's been an intense idea that babies don't have consciousness, which any mother would tell you is not
true.
Reality. But what that ends up doing is we end up treating them as if they have no consciousness. So something that I could see as a really great way to start changing the way that we practice is you're working with mother, partner, and baby. And so all three of those people, and then whoever else is involved, need to have a say.
Yeah.
And the only way that babies can communicate, is with nonverbal. They don't use language, but they can communicate with you in different ways. We have all these other skills like intuition, sensing, vibrational feeling. We have tons of other skills that are innate to all of us as human beings. Yeah. And this is another human being. Right.
Which also has those skills.
So it's about connecting with baby. So if you're thinking of this being, you're going to ask questions like, is this a comfortable position for you too?
Yeah.
Is this an okay hand pressure on your head?
Right.
When you come out, are you cold?
Right.
Is it too bright? You've been in a water environment. How does that affect you?
Yeah.
Is there too loud of noises because you've been in a very muffled environment?
Right.
Right? So
inside a body.
Inside of a body.
It's dark and cold, dark and warm and muffled in there, right? Yeah.
So it's like, really stepping back and saying, I need to actually consult all of the people involved. And then think of how, without even saying what those practices are, if you start with the premise that this is a live, conscious being who's creating memory, when you create memory, you live that memory.
Yeah.
So if you're abused when you're first welcomed, and remember, trauma is not what happened, it's our story of what happened. So that makes it more traumatic, right? That's why love is the great cure-all.
Right. Right. Yeah. Something happens. Like I stubbed my toe on the way out of your house. There's, I could walk out of the house and be like, oh, that was a great time. Or I could be like, bad things always happen to me when I go to other people's houses. And it's the story that's the trauma more than like the pain in my toe.
Yeah. Because the pain in the toe is the experience, right?
Yeah.
But it's what we overlay on it that creates all the tension and builds.
Right.
So if we welcome a child, and I keep looking at your womb because
I'm here and I have a womb.
Because you're here and you have a womb. If we keep remembering that's a conscious being, then and that memory is held and created and held very deeply in intense emotional experience, which birth is, then we're going to change the way we welcome. We're going to say, okay, I don't want to welcome you with violence because I don't want you to always think that everything's about violence. I want to welcome you and show you the best of what we are as human beings, which is like presence.
Yeah.
kindness,
Yeah.
consideration,
Yeah.
like respect, love, all of those great qualities that we can choose to access as human beings,
Yeah.
instead of like, busyness or projecting our own wounds onto somebody else, or all the darker parts of us that we're all working on, and maybe aren't really conscious of, right? Yeah. So I guess we just have a choice in how we welcome life, and I think it's important to welcome life with kindness.
Yeah. It's a beautiful metaphor, like the process of birthing and like welcoming like a brand new life into the world with kindness, but also our own lives and welcoming our own lives with kindness. I've seen a lot of, within myself and within others, there's this the spiritual journey, the awakening, like, and how that can feel like drag on, frustrated, like all of these things, instead of, oh, I'm learning, I'm changing, I'm growing. Oh, I hadn't seen that before. There's something else to be explored, right? Yeah. Like just treating that journey with kindness, as opposed to more of a resignation. And that speaks to how a lot of people interface with their lives, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you think about it, a lot of people came through like, oh, the baby's not here yet. Like, we need to speed that up. We need to do that. Sort of those kind of processes. A lot of people within our age ranges had births that contained stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing that a lot of perinatal and prenatal psychology looks at is, is how your care provider's own traumas can get overlaid onto the birth. So, and you as a mother, if you haven't worked through your own trauma, you bring that to your birth of your baby. Mm-hmm. So remember, it's the story, not the experience. So as soon as that intensity that you're starting to feel in your baby's birth reminds you of your own experience from your birth on an unconscious body somatic level, you go into that fear again. And
in yourself on a really, really like visceral subconscious level.
Yeah, and you think that's about this birth. You think it's about your baby's birth.
Oh,
but it's actually your own birth experience that you're working through.
Right.
As well as your partner. Their body starts to react to the birth of your present baby from their own experience.
Wow. Your
midwife, your doctor, your doula, anybody else who's in the room is also having a physical somatic resonance.
Wow.
Bringing up their own memory on a limbic unconscious level of their own birth.
Oh my God.
So think of all that overlaying on this one baby that's being born.
Right. And if that's done in a really beautiful way, that's exquisite. And if it's done in a more conventional way, you got a lot of unprocessed gunk hopping onto a baby.
Well, then it's like, that new life, all of a sudden there's all these other people's overlay on it. And then, I like to look at it this way. It's like, okay, if this is happening, I think of all the trauma that we're walking around with.
Yeah.
Like, it's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's not that's not that doctor's fault. It's not this, it's like, oh my goodness. We think of all these babies. That doctor's a baby that was born. And then think of the experiences through their life that just built on that first trauma as an example. Mm-hmm. So it's bigger than just an individual thing, but it starts. And all the research and lots of thinkers would agree, it's like even pre-conception, conception, in utero, you're having memory and forming experience that just gets built on as you go forward. But birth is like this huge spirit meets body, because it's no longer in mom's body, it's in its own body on earth. Mm-hmm. So it's such an impactful time that, given a lot of clearing in mom, a lot of clearing in partner, a lot of clearing in care providers, even the recognition that this is the case, we can do a lot of healing of present births, which sets that life up for less imprinting that's traumatic.
Right. So
then they can actually live in a way that's in harmony with that resonance we were talking about in the beginning, that deep resonance of love, oxytocin kind of idea. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so when you're working with people to prepare them for birth, there's a process of sort of like unraveling some of that.
So I've recently started connecting with my clients. The very first kind of meeting that we have, we actually talk about their births. So not even getting into, what are your preferences for this baby's birth, but what have you gone through?
Right.
What was your own birth like?
Yeah.
Through your parents.
Yeah.
For both people in the couple.
Yeah.
And then we talk about even early childhood, because research also shows the first 3 years of a child's life, there's so much imprinting that's happening in that period of time, and so deep, because it's happening in a different brain wave than what we exist in as adults. We live in a different brain wave as children, and those are those deep brain waves. And Bruce Lipton talks tons about the brain waves that children live in, and many other thinkers as well. But those are deep imprint brain waves. So before we even get into the birth of this baby, we do, what are your birth like? And then we do prenatal bonding. So talking about connecting with what's the tone of this baby? What's your tone as you? What's your tone? And being able to feel into, using those other skills that we have that are nonverbal, what's the feeling of, like, who is this being? How are they different than me? Because sometimes mom and babies are so entwined because they're in the same body for that period of time. And a mom thinks this new emotion is just her hormones.
Right.
It might actually be her baby's.
Right.
So giving a little bit of like space between this is mom's tone and this is baby's tone, which is really helpful for birth, because then you can distinguish what's my experience as the woman giving birth and what's my baby doing. And this isn't about my baby. I don't need to be afraid for my baby. This is actually me working through something of my own. And you can tell baby, this is mom's. This isn't yours. Like Karen Melton in the States, I've done a little bit of work with, and I've read absolutely everything she's wrote about, and that's where the idea of the imprinting really comes from. And she's amazing at discussing how deeply we get imprinted by this and how that actually affects even the conversation I'm having with you. She calls it your little one. So the little one that was traumatized in birth, we got to work with those little ones, right? Before we go to support other little ones.
Yeah.
Right? So we start there, and then through different practices, like some body work, I do like a kind of Thai yoga therapy, but unique to birth and gestation. So it's not traditional. I've really infused it with the principles of like existing in a womb and like conscious touch on like how do we unlock tensions that are held in the body with just the way that we touch, that kind of stuff, and related to like your in utero experience, based on the work of like birth into being, and like spinning babies and that kind of stuff have all influenced the way that I work with the body. And then breath. I've done a lot of work in the last few years with Pneuma somatics breath work, and that to me is one of the most powerful tools at unraveling like what is happening in the body mind and where am I holding things that are stories that I keep living in. Marion Woodman talks about our traumas as trauma worlds. They're like
little bubble.
Yeah.
This is my trauma world. I live right up here in my trauma world.
Yeah, and that's
There's
what
not
you
even
see.
another person here.
Yeah.
Except for where you interface with my trauma world.
And then you think it's always happening to you, and your body's always reacting as if you're having that experience over and over and over.
Yeah.
So breath work, you think about it, from birth until death, you're always breathing. Your breath is always
Your
recording
entire
memory.
life. You're recording memory.
Recording memory.
Wait.
Because it's always present.
Right.
Your breath is always present. It's always happening right now.
I've never thought of it as recording memory.
Like the different patterns that your breath gets into. Think about fear.
Yep.
Then every time you breathe that way, it's like every part of your body remembers all of the little fear experiences. So we get into different breath habits and patterns and different ways of breathing into our body. So this is just one aspect of breath. And it's supporting the locking in of the memory in the body.
Is that one of the reasons why, like, I've used, like, Wim Hof style breath work? I was just thinking, like, that's specifically activating, like, what would normally be kind of like a running breath while you're sitting still. And does that act to, like, reprogram the brain to, like, expect something different during that intensity of breath?
I don't know tons about Wim Hof. I know it's a really powerful tool to work with your own physiology, and so I can't say specifically what that breath style is doing, but cold, it's like resets your neurology, right? So it makes sense that using cold and breath, you're re-imprinting something.
Got it.
By having that physical reset with the cold and using the breath to re-record that kind of memory. So theoretically, right? I don't know specifically.
Just curious.
But interestingly enough, I remember watching something, and Wim Hof was born in a cold hallway.
Interesting.
Yeah. He was a twin, and he
was a twin.
He was a twin. His twin was born before him, and then they were moving Mom to a different room for postpartum, and she started going to labor again, and he was born in a cold hallway. Right. And I just find that fascinating, because that's like right there, kind of folk proof that your birth experience has deep imprints.
Deep imprints on your life,
And then look at where he's taken that.
He's taken that cold experience to the extreme, to places where nobody would normally take it.
He said he got in the water and he felt like he was at home.
Right.
So isn't that interesting? Like, he was born cold.
Yeah.
So I just find that a really fascinating connection. And yes, but your breath is a really powerful tool at exploring, what's going on in you. So, you could we always think of the idea in, like, holistic circles and stuff about, where your attention goes, your energy flows. So breath is also used as a way to focus attention. So you can use it when you're working with the body. So if you've got tension in your hip all the time, well, let's bring the breath there. Let's focus on our breath. Let's focus on bringing the breath there, moving into a circular breathing, which matches the present moment, and see what unravels when we connect all these components, our attention, our breath, and our body, right? Why are we potentially holding that experience? But there's lots of fascinating experiences with the breath.
Yeah, and in terms of working with people, like, let's say, like I don't know if we specifically worked on, like, birth trauma when we did our breathwork session, but if somebody has had a really traumatic birth, somebody was like, was the product of a modern medical birth, for example, like, what kind of, like, have you worked with people like that and seen sort of, like, themes among those, or?
So funny, you can't always, with pneuma breath, is you can't always, you can have intentions to work through different types of things, but the breath and your whole system might have its own idea. Like you're saying, when we worked together, that wasn't necessarily the intention. But your breath and your experience and the facilitation energy and my focuses all affect the experience, and then that's what came out. Right? So definitely sometimes when I've been working with breathers, I have the curiosity to be, wow, that looks like maybe a birth thing happening.
Right, you can see something specific in how their neck like you're doing this sort of this thing with your neck.
Or they're coming out of the womb, right? And then as a doula, then I'm bringing those skills and I'm saying, how would I work with this baby coming out of the womb, and how would I help them complete this? Oftentimes, it's just like something got stuck and incomplete. And sometimes it's just the very fact of completing a process. So, but definitely the breath encourages, like, moving into those experiences and exploring those experiences. And so when people come to me and they want to work on their birth trauma of their own birth or their baby's birth, then I get a lot of history first. So I would ask a lot of questions about the birth, and particularly about the stories around the birth, and kind of
right, because it doesn't matter what you remember. It doesn't matter what happened. What matters is what you remember and how you've stored those particular stories.
Yeah. Because that's what keeps recreating the
experience
trauma,
of
right?
life.
Yeah. So we really do a discussion on the history and the story about it, and then invite the breath to move into that story.
Yeah.
So you might, like I said, we might encounter something physical, or we might encounter a long-held emotional that hasn't been released. Yeah. So just maybe anger, or maybe fear, or maybe like grief, or maybe just the desire to be seen, like maybe as a baby it's like you just kept crying and said, please see me, please see me, I'm right here, please see me and listen to me. And so as the facilitator, my response would be to see them, to just really offer them that completion. So it's like, you are seen, I hear you, something like that. So every session is totally unique because everybody has unique experiences.
Right. Everybody's birth is different. Everybody's life to this point has been different.
Yeah. But we're all born. That's the cool thing.
Yeah. No matter what that looks like, we all have an experience of moving. Yeah. I was wondering if maybe some of that completion of that like birth experience is even just moving from like a let's say, like my perception is that while babies are in womb, they're in some sort of like trance space almost, and there's this piece of moving from that into a more conscious waking experience in a gentle way. A lot of people, I feel like if that's true, then there's this shift that happens really abruptly. Like we went from a warm, cozy space to a, what is this space?
Yeah, and I mean, you make a good point. That's like Bruce Lipton talking about the different wave states that we're in. So like in utero and childhood are different brain waves even, which is exactly what you're saying, and using the terminology trance, right? Yeah. But even on a like physical level, like, so think about when you're awakened in your bed. Yeah. What's the difference between like cold water being poured on you, or, a gentle kind of like nudging, right? Right? It's a totally different experience.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, I can't imagine anybody who would want to be woken up with a bucket of water over their head.
Yeah, a shot of cortisol, right?
Yeah.
So how does that affect
how you look at the rest of the day?
How do you look at the rest of the day even, right?
Yeah.
So
and if we think about like birth as a metaphor for the rest of our life, our like awakening here into this body. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, they say like how because it's our first experience. Yeah. Like our first so in the womb you're still like you're not having as much of you're not being affected by gravity, and so there's these dimensions that you're protected from being in the womb, right? You've got mom's, you're like in her kind of energetic bubble still. Yeah. But when you come out and you kind of get dropped into here, so it's like a fruit dropping from the mother tree. Yeah. You're affected by gravity all of a sudden. You've got, loud noises, that kind of stuff. So all of that is your first experience. Right. And you have no other template but that one to form anticipation, because the beings that we use our memory to make decisions. Say, oh yeah, remember that? This is how we do that. So I need to use my memory to like navigate forward, because I have to protect or I have to make a decision. So you use that template to make all your other decisions. Mm-hmm. Like attachment's painful. So say you were taken away from your mother really quickly for something else, like some other medical reason or something. You might feel rejection might be a big part of your life, because you feel like right at that moment when you need the most support, it's not available. Mm-hmm. So you might be walking around most of your life thinking that relationships aren't ever available when you really need them. Right. And not have any idea of why potentially you're always like this. And it potentially could be connected to, some deep imprint that you've been functioning from when you were born.
Right. And a lot of our personality then becomes coping mechanism, becomes like a way of dealing with that sort of fear and how that interacts with other people.
Yeah, and then you build up more memories that
support that.
Confirm that.
Right.
So that's why I say sometimes it's about having what they call in the breath work a corrective experience.
Right.
So like going back and like letting your facilitator hold you as if you were a little baby.
Yeah.
And help you re-imprint
Right.
a new experience with connection or
Right.
attachment
Right.
or early bonding.
Yeah.
Right? So sometimes, you could have an experience where your facilitator's rocking you. Mm-hmm. And on a level, because the beautiful thing about breath work is it supports you going into an altered state of consciousness, just like you were in when you were a little baby.
Right.
When you were in utero.
Right.
You're in an altered state of consciousness.
Yeah.
So the breathwork's intention is to help you shift from the normal conscious brainwaves that we live into this altered state, so you can access those somatic memories in the body, in the mind, and then have a corrective experience in that. Which now you have a different template.
Right.
So it's like, oh, that experience was really nourishing. I might go and seek that now.
Right.
Oh, maybe I can trust this person now.
Right.
Because I have a resonance in me that says, that felt really good.
Yeah.
I don't want to run away from that. I actually want to run towards it. So you're changing things
Right.
through doing the work.
Wow.
Which is not always easy, as you know.
No, gosh. I mean, I remember in that session, like, there were definitely some more challenging parts and some crying and some giggling and many different emotions.
Yeah.
But I also remember coming out of it and being like, I feel different in my life. I feel different as a result of that experience. I had a really strong memory after that of, like, what it felt like to be before the womb. Which was like, I remember just being like, it was so giddy. Like, it's just like, Natalia's walking me through this experience. You're walking me through this experience of like, of my inner world and like being in utero with my mom. And then it was like in conception and then like before conception. And I'd done some of that work on my own, but I feel because you have so much experience with the actual energy of birth, being in that like birth facilitator piece that like you pull that in, that like pure consciousness of that like moment of sort of shifting from like unity consciousness, mom and baby, to like two separate organisms. So there's something different that you bring to that.
Well, and it's relationship. So Trevor Yelch, at the Pneuma Somatics Breathwork main guy, always talks about like, when you have, because it's a relationship trauma, oftentimes your healing also comes through relationship. So we can do a lot of work individually,
right?
But we're not born individually.
No,
we're not intended. I mean, you're gestated. You remember what it's like to be one and connected, right? And your first experience is relational. Everything in life is relational. It's between this and that, where none of us are isolated.
Right.
Even though we try to think we are, and we hide in
our own little boxes and our own little houses.
You can't. You're always in relation with something.
Yeah.
So we need each other to support our own healings and our own integrations and resolutions. So what you're tapping into was exactly that component, was that like, oh, this happens in relation.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, maybe you were able to go there because of my background, and maybe other facilitators had a different background. Yeah. Because it's the facilitator, the breather,
the combination,
and the stuff that's present that determines what comes out of that session. Yeah. Which is important why you choose your facilitator. It's like, what are you looking to work on? Yeah. What are their specialties?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and maybe 10 years ago there was a lot less available, and now you've got people who've specialized into, let's say, like birth, breath, Thai yoga body work, right?
Totally.
Versus, like singing bowls and flutes and sound therapy, and like could be doing the same work on the same aspects of self, but through different modalities.
Well, you have different talents and and so it's like, what are you working on? And definitely, I mean, I love the intersection of our body and our breath, and our birth as template and first memory. Yeah. And those are really kind of where my passions lie. And I mean, birth is my passion because that's the start. Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, if I can support mothers and babies, if I can support a family at integrating their own trauma using breathwork before their own birth, then I can support them in having a birth where this being kind of gets to move into life with more kindness and gentleness and love and all of those noble qualities we're talking about. You know, we're shaping the future. So I think if we want a better world to live in, I know this sounds really idealistic, but
I love it.
If we want a better world to live in my practice and my philosophy is we want to start like with couples intending the creation of their children.
Right.
And we want to support pregnant families.
Right.
So this is not about mother having to do all the work. It's like she needs support.
Yeah.
She's holding the future.
Yeah.
The future of the world. If you care about the planet, care about that pregnant woman, she is Mother Earth as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we better support that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do we support her partner and her community so that they can support her?
Yeah.
That then when they're birthing the future, they've got a template that isn't bogged down in so much projection from the outside and potential re-traumatization and passing on those wounds from their parents, you know?
Yeah.
So they talk about intergenerational trauma and, you know, so stressing the importance of doing our work ourselves.
Yeah.
And then welcoming our new future with some clarity.
Yeah.
I think it was, she's a social anthropologist, and I can't remember her name, and she's like really quite famous. Whoops. Whoops.
Problems.
There we go.
Oh my gosh, thank
Birth trauma.
I don't know if I can turn it all the way off.
We'll see.
Hopefully that's the end of it. Sorry, guys. Ina says that her partner and her are planning on having a child. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Beautiful. Yeah, it's really beautiful to hear, you know, about this, how birth impacts that. And I think of some of the people that I've met at breathwork workshops or at various like healing things or dance things that I've been to over the last years, and you can spot and pick the people who were raised in families that get it according to like new age consciousness, whatever, right? Like those people who are raised in really coherent or birthed through really natural means, like you can see it in them. There's this vibrancy, there's this aliveness, and you sort of go like, how did you end up here? It's like, oh, my mom did XYZ, blah, blah, blah. She's been into, you know, all of these things since before I was born. And she's like, right. And they come out like that. And then you talk to other people who maybe don't seem as vivacious. And maybe they have different stories. Maybe they have the same stories. But I've met enough of those, like, just like bright-eyed children.
Yeah.
And they're often in their, like, 20s. Just kind of like, right, okay. So, like, the older ones of us are breeding and we brought you up like this. So if we just keep doing that, we should be okay. Right? Like, yeah. And
there's no, like, you know, there's no, now you can't be fixed. Like, just because you've had traumatic birth experience, your own or your baby's, doesn't mean that you can't remember. There's that plasticity of our brain. There's doing the work. There's using our capacity to love, to heal. There's like presence, awareness. There's lots of support to actually transforming that. But yeah, if we didn't have to do that in the first place, wouldn't that be, where would we go as human beings if we didn't have to work through so much of the stuff that we carry from projection and intergenerational trauma and our own traumas, and that's what I think you're kind of
for sure. If we don't have to go through, it's like how much of my 20s would have been completely different if I hadn't been working through first of all, like creating nasty experiences for myself, and then
that's all you knew,
because that's all I knew how to do, and then like figuring out how to stop doing that and find something
that was
different.
Comfortable, actually, as much as we
for sure, and
that's what you know,
and still now, like shifting out of some of those older patterns of self-sabotage, of like like not seeing myself the way other people see me, or feeling just
you live in your trauma world.
Whatever those pieces are, like that's still a process, and I'm starting to see there's like an identification with those pieces. Like I can see that I'm like, I really attached to being that person, even though it's not working very well for me.
Well, you don't know anything else,
right?
You don't have any other experience, oftentimes, so we keep seeking out what we're comfortable with, and sometimes what we're comfortable with is painful.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's the beautiful thing about a facilitated experience is that then you have the opportunity to create, you don't have to know what's going to happen next, but you're willing to show up to an experience that might be really different than what you've experienced before. And if it's really positive, then you can create a positive memory, a positive imprinting, and then want more of that and want to create something different for yourself in that. Yeah. Super beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I just wanted to tell you about that anthropologist.
Yeah.
Because I think their practice is really beautiful. Actually, I can't remember. Never mind.
She's a woman anthropologist. She's done lots of work.
Yeah, but they were talking about how so before you even have a baby in the culture, and this is indigenous culture, so it's really in connection with the earth, and there's lots of stability in the community, so you would know people for a really long time, and things are really supported. But before you would even have a baby, so she said their sexual practices are really interesting. So kids, when they start to get into adolescence and they start to feel that desire, are given the space to just explore. They even have their own separate place. Yeah. So they'll sleep with like multiple partners. Right. And nobody ever gets pregnant. That was what the interesting thing that she was talking about is like nobody actually gets pregnant. Right. Because it's almost like nature is saying it's looking for the best match. Right. And they're given the space to explore that. And nature is born in ecstasy. It's born in pleasure. Right. The pleasure principle that kind of motivates you to seek out. And so nobody ever gets pregnant. Yeah. Until, there's a couple that like finds themselves and they're really connected. And then the mother goes to her own gods or goddesses and talks about wanting to have a baby, and then shortly after that there's like pregnancy. But it's interesting how nature has like a natural selection. And I just think like there's no shame around that, and there's lots of intention around bringing new life into the community, and there's a lot of community support. So like trying to remember that in our own bodies and go back there, like I said, what would life be like? Right? Yeah, if we had that as a baseline, if that was a place of no sexual shame, being at choice with your partner, seeking that higher communion in order to pull your soul down, bring your chosen soul, your soul that's chosen you down, and because birth is that part of the sexual spectrum. Yeah. The same hormones in childbirth, the same hormones in making a baby. Yeah. Right? So if you've experienced trauma, right, in that experience, that also might be present in your birth experience. Yeah. Yeah. So I just feel it in my body. It's like the little things connecting, being like, oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's been really wonderful chatting with you today and getting to share and being here. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah. Yeah. We've got a couple things here. Yeah. Oh, hi, Shailene. Yeah, Ina said hi, Steve, if you're still here. She said it's different this time, fully conscious about the vital role of bringing a new child into the world. Thank you. Yeah, I understand that too. It's like this place of like, I had no idea what I was getting into 8 years ago. Oh, none of us did. None of us, like, there's so little understanding of what parenting and childhood is. And we take it for granted because it's so common, but we forget how impactful it is. Yeah. So just being able to talk about it. Yeah, just like, thank you. So grateful for the knowledge that's been shared. Thank you, Ina. Oh, thank you. Yeah. I learned my birth, and then Shailene shares, I learned my birth story just a few months back, and it was trauma time for sure. My mom and I left alone, felt separated. Oh, wow. Aww. Yeah. Kitzinger, yep. No, it's not clicking open, but there's a little story there. Yeah. Wow, thank you, Shailene. Yeah, I'm glad we could share with you guys. We're going to wrap up for today. If anybody has any questions for Nattalia, please reach out to her directly. She's got more information there and is taking clients for birth. Definitely. Birth clients here in Calgary. And also people who might be interested in doing birth and breath
transformation.
Birth trauma integration and
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I'd love to have... I'll link to it on the thing. Awesome. Or Birthwise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Birthwise.com.
Birthwise.com.
Birthwise with a Y.
Yeah. Yeah, and if anybody has questions for her, that's great. And I'd love to have you back on to talk more about this on a future topic. It's been really good. If you guys have been impacted by this, if you've experienced something, we always appreciate your comments on little quotables that were really impactful for you, your comments, your hearts, your loves, and sharing this with other people so that we can reach more people with the message. If you know somebody who's clearly had some birth trauma and might be open to hearing about why they are the way they are, this might be a good one for them. And I super appreciate you guys. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. And I love to close with 3 ohms. It's part of the ritual of it, so we can share that.
Sound is really amazing in birth as well. And integration.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you. We'll see you guys on Thursday. We're talking about shadow work with me. I'm a little scared, but it's going to be great. See you guys later.